we are more than just talk.
Hi, and welcome to the Book Beat. I'm Jean Noel Bassior, and this is a show where we feature authors talking about their latest books and guest experts in the world of writing and publishing, so that if you want to write a book, you can do that, especially in this brave new world of self-publishing. So we have a fantastic show planned for you today. We have our guest experts are John Stellar and KateRomero-Stellar, and they're going to be on in just a couple of minutes with us. And if you are an author who wants to take your book to Hollywood or have Hollywood come knocking on your door, and you know you want that. We all want that as authors. I've been stalking our guests through email here, so which I never do. So they'll be with us in just a couple of minutes, and they will tell you how to get started on that. And then we have Dr. Gagik Malikian, and he is a professor of chemistry at Cal State Northridge, and he has a rather contrarian view about vitamins and supplements, and he says that they might not always be safe. And so it's not a popular viewpoint, but we'll find out why he thinks that. He's got the credentials, that's for sure. We'll hear what he has to say. And then in our final segment, we'll be joined by Lee Gale Gruen. And she was a probation officer for 37 years here in Los Angeles. And then she decided to take an acting class just for fun. And she brought her 85-year-old father along with her. And so they took the class together. She's written a book about it, and something kind of magical happened between the two of them, and they bonded in a deeper way than they ever had before through that experience, and she's written about that. So first, I just want to give you a couple of tips this week for writers, and this is when you've had your book published. And a lot of times in my coaching, people come to me and say, well, okay, I've got the book. And of course, we have experts here who are going to tell us a lot about what to do after the book is published. But the first thing that I tell people when they say, well, what do I do now? How do I get the word out? I say, well, you've got to have a website for the book. That's number one. And then another thing that I tell them to do is I say, well, you might want to set up a Facebook fan page, because that way you can establish a community around the book and people can share what they think, their thoughts about the book. So that's another thing you can do. But I got really excited this week when I went online and I discovered some amazing videotapes. These are how-tos by a guy named Tyler Moore. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know I'm talking about him. But it was one of those magical things where he takes you step by step in developing a WordPress website. And what I learned from his videos is that the technology for WordPress has really, really changed in the last couple of years. And there are these things called plugins, which I never understood before. But one thing about plugins, which I now realize, is that a plugin means that a web developer has created something fantastic that you don't have to create, and you don't have to hire a web designer to create. It already exists. And WordPress now allows you to create a website that you can't even tell. It's like, we're not talking about WordPress blogs like, you used to remember like 5 or 6 years ago. These are websites that look really good. Guess what? eBay, Forbes are powered by WordPress. So is the Huffington Post. So if eBay can be powered by WordPress, I mean, look how powerful that is. So I highly recommend Tyler Moore's videos. This is like, he's kind of one of these guys that reminds me of Timothy Ferris, who wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. It's like, be free, master the technology. It's not that hard, folks, and then you can be traveling around the world and winning karate contests in Japan and swimming with, the sharks, or, in South America. And, your life is just, it's all cool. It's working. So I love this kind of stuff. And these are very empowering videos. He actually shows you how to do it. He's also put his phone number out there, and he's got like over a million hits on the YouTube video. So I'm kind of wondering how he's dealing with all of that, but that's for another day. Anyway, our guests here are John Stellar and KateRomero-Stellar. They are married, a couple, and they have a business together And John is founder and president of Stellar Communications, and they are best known as the PR company that launched The Secret, if you've heard of that, which was a global, amazing success. And that must be quite a story. I mean, you guys have gotten people on Oprah, CNN, let's see, into print, New York Times, Washington Post, Vanity Fair. So you are getting people placed in just top media, spots. So tell me about this dream that we all have. Is it really possible that we could, as authors, do something to attract attention from like a Hollywood producer that would go like, gee, I really want to make a book. Make a movie about your book. Is that possible?
Well, first of all, Gina Noel, thank you for having us on.
Sure,
I really appreciate being here with you today.
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
You can get the attention of producers. In our case, a big result in the last couple months is we attracted Barry Morrow, who's the Academy Award-winning screenwriter of Rain Man, to a project that we've been working on.
Wow.
And that's huge, considering the story that could be told that could inspire millions. So it's about having a story, of course. I think every author knows that. Mm-hmm. And it's also about having a lot of ingredients, some of them intangible, some tangible. And there's a chemistry, and we can get into that a little bit more.
Yeah. What is that chemistry? What are they looking for?
Well, for instance, the book that attracted Barry Morrow, IMDb Pro is a really helpful tool that
the website,
any author who is looking to turn their book into a screenplay would do very well by researching anybody who's anybody about film and producing and all of that. It's all there, and it's beautifully archived. It's very easy to use. The book that we were looking to turn into a movie was Dummy, a Memoir is the name of it, and it was written by an autistic man who was autistic in the 50s and extremely dyslexic. And he was told he would end up being institutionalized, and to this day he still can't read or write.
Was Rain Man based on this book? Was that
no?
The book? Oh.
Bill was based. No, actually, there was no movie for this person yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we were looking to create that.
Yeah.
And we attracted some top shelf producers on top of that, as well as going up to meet Barry Morrow and the author of the book who can't read or write. It took him 5 years or 7 years to write it.
It was a 5-year process to write it, and then about a year after that before we met the author. So
wow.
Yeah, so the chemistry is really, it's having the great story. It's I think you also as an author want to be somewhat unattached to the outcome, because the truth is that it's a real process. And in one of the phone calls that we had with Barry Morrow, he reminded us that getting a story made into a feature film is like a puzzle, and there are pieces to put together.
Because he'd been through it, right?
He's been through it several
times.
Yeah, numerous times.
Yeah.
And so authors out there want to know that it's a process. It's like putting a puzzle together. It's that chemistry. It's got to have these ingredients. And the reality is that it's going to take time. Yeah. And what we, with our Stellar Communications, our public relations business, is that we often share with people that an overnight success is somewhere from 2 to 5 years.
Okay.
Or 20.
Yeah, I mean, just to be realistic.
And a lot of authors, of course, have spent 5, 10, 20 years writing their books as well. So, and I think they probably think Hollywood moves faster, but some of them are used to.
Yeah. Well, and typically it doesn't. Now, the one thing that's wonderful these days, and you were speaking about it when you were mentioning Mr. Tyler's resource, there are a lot of different options right now. And one that's really surprised me is Netflix, and a show that with Kevin Spacey's up for 9 award nominations,
it's amazing.
and it runs through Netflix.
Yeah.
So
it's amazing what's happening, isn't it?
Yeah, and with YouTube you could become an overnight success, literally.
And people do. That seems to be the new.
That goes viral.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And that's what happened with The Secret. It went viral.
Yeah, tell us about that, because were you guys surprised by the success of The Secret?
Actually, not at all.
Not at all?
No. And that's not an ego thing or anything like that. It was like I met Rhonda Byrne in August of 2006, and the DVD had been out since March. And I grew up on the coast here in Santa Monica, so I'm used to seeing waves, come into shore. And when I learned about The Secret, and I met her and the team, and we met because we brought them to the Tahoe Film Festival that we were promoting.
She was the Australian TV producer who made The Secret.
Australian television producer, made the film, and it was her gifts in television and film production that helped pull all of this information together, because it's information that's existed for eons, really.
Since Wallace Wattles wrote his book.
Wallace Wattles, yes. And it's that information that's within us all, but she had a gift of putting it together in a way.
She did an amazing,
Yeah, in a way that, and our mantra while we were working with The Secret was that we were going to reach the man and the woman. Actually, Katie added the woman part, but the man and woman on the couch drinking a beer with this information. And that did occur. And
did.
The uninitiated,
yeah. And even last week, my new State Farm insurance agent found out that we had worked with The Secret, and he was blown away because he had watched it a few weeks back.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's still circling the globe, and I'm not surprised to answer your question, because the intention behind it was really pure.
Absolutely.
And I think that's another thing that is really helpful to authors, especially if they want to take a story to Hollywood, is that the purest intention that they can have is what's going to attract people. Because I think no matter what, man, woman, and child, we know the truth when we hear it.
No matter if it's an alien just steps off a spaceship and says beep, beep, beep. If it's the truth for you, it's definitely going to reach you and open your heart.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And let me guess that maybe law of attraction figures into your life, because when you were saying, I'll take a wild guess as an Abraham person here.
Well, it absolutely does, and we could probably do about 3 shows with you just on that.
We'll just say in passing, because when you said let go of the results and perhaps allow the cooperative components to come into place to boost all of this along, right? So if somebody has a book, you're saying the chemistry has to be right. In other words, the story, it has to be a good story, right?
Well, when you read a book, I mean, I'm sure this has happened to you as well. You read a book, and it's not every book that you read that you can see it as a movie.
Yeah, you see it visually sometimes.
Yeah, and when you read a book that really feels like it needs to be a movie, then you've got something.
Yeah.
It was Conversations with God and Peaceful Warrior were that for me. And by golly, they turned into a movie, and I was at both premieres. And that was all from Law of Attraction. So we use it every single day. And to be hootless about the results is really the secret sauce. Because if you're hootless about it, you're not attaching any outcome to it. And it has a way of reaching you. And the more fun a thing is, the more effortlessly it's created.
Yes, I'm finding that too.
Yeah.
And as Mike Dooley says, the cursed hows, right?
Exactly.
Just letting go of those. So, but let's say an author has a book. What is a realistic expectation? In other words, like, let's say I have a book and people say it's visual, I can see it. So somebody's encouraging this author, and then they come to you, and then what's the process? What do you do for them? Kind of walk me through it.
Well, and just a little background, Katie's been in the entertainment industry for 3 decades, and I grew up in this area, so I've been around Hollywood, and then with the public relations business, there's always been crossover. So we've developed this group of contacts, and especially in the last year or so, we are attracting, I don't know if you know the story about how an acorn goes underneath the ground, and then it attracts all the resources it needs, and it doesn't get anything it doesn't need. So we've been like this acorn under the surface, attracting producers and writers, and oh my gosh, we know one of the most amazing casting directors in Hollywood who got us start with the De Laurentiis family.
Wow.
And these are people who are spiritual and are conscious and who are looking for great stories to be told. And and we got this told to us again by Mary Morrow, the studios aren't looking for these things. So another thing to share with your audience is that if they expect Paramount to pick up their book and option it and make a movie,
You mean that isn't going to happen?
probably not.
No, it
Probably
most likely
not.
be an independent.
It would be more realistic
Yeah.
for them to think, okay, who are the people that this book would resonate with? Begin to circle up those folks, and then find people who would be interested in putting forth some money to have it made, even if there's like a scene from the movie. Like we have a friend that's putting a movie together based on Think and Grow Rich.
Yes.
And he created a couple of scenes that are incredible, and he's using it to create
To shop
financing
it,
for
yes.
himself.
Now he's actually making like a demo tape, do you mean? Or
He
is
did
writing-
already.
It's
He
a
did,
it's a
okay.
demo,
Yeah, it's
like
gorgeous.
10 minutes of the
Yeah.
film. It's like a slice of it.
So is that what an author has to do, though? Because I'm wondering about that. See, the other question I have about that is I've heard two schools of thought on this. One says you've got to have a great script. So if you've written a book, somehow or other, either you or someone else has to have a great script, and you've just got to have that. Now I've heard kind of somebody else, and in fact, a friend of mine, Gary Shusett, who has James Cameron was one of his students at his famed school for screenwriters. Now Gary says it's not about having a great script. It's sort of about the creative energy coming together, like gathering the people who see this vision and want to make this film. And then those people, they can get a good script. I mean, that's the least of their worries from if
Right,
they
well,
fall in love
go
with
ahead.
the project.
Well, all of that, absolutely part of the process. What happened with this Dummy, a Memoir, is there was so much flow around it that it was just, I mean, we were fist bumping constantly. It's like, oh, look at that. We're going to meet Barry Morrow in Santa Barbara, and we've got this meeting, and we're doing this, and we're doing that. And Fred Fuchs, who's a big time producer, who's more of a spiritual kind of person and wants to make that kind of movies. He's working on Edgar Cayce film right now, and he has the support of the institution to make that film. Is you have to remember, if you are an author, you need to let go of how it's going to go. Like keep the integrity of the story intact as best you can. But the author of Dummy, a Memoir, painted it in such a tiny little small box that there was no more creativity left. So what we needed to do is walk away from that for now, because he's autistic and he really needs to micromanage things, and it really took the fun out of it. So we notified all of the key players. They all completely understood, and they all completely want to work with us on any kind of film that we have coming down the pike that inspires us. If it inspires us, we know it's going to inspire the world.
So if I'm an author, do I contact you, and then if I can sell you on my project and you get inspired, does that mean you'll represent me, or how does that work for authors?
Yes, and it goes, I want to answer the question that you asked about having the elements. It's back to that point of chemistry. So I just want to affirm what you said, is that an author with a book doesn't have to have a script.
Okay.
It isn't really a linear process. If you have a group of people around you who can help you, we use the term steward a lot, be the stewards of your book and your vision. That's what you need. And it's like anything in life. As soon as you can attach your story to somebody who's already been there with a known name, whether it's a group like us who's worked with a project like The Secret, or various people that we've been talking about, that's really what's needed. And so for us, our process is that people will contact us. They let us know about their book and their story, and we'll take a look at them, at the story, and let them know what we think, how we could help them. And if it isn't necessarily fit for us, we're going to make some recommendations, because we really do want to see great stories get out there. We want, our role in the world is to help awaken as many people with great resources as possible. That's what we're about all day long. So.
And do you like to work with spiritual or metaphysical material, or do you take all kinds of projects?
It really depends on the project. If it's a heart-centered project, that's our priority, because that's the way the world's going to change.
Right.
Is to get that kind of content out there that can also be entertaining. So what a person would need to do to engage us is, we also charge a fee, and we have really wonderful project schedules that we use for a person so that they can keep their dream alive and not have to worry so much about the money. We do find a way to customize a working relationship with a person, when money is the issue. So they would need to engage us. Once we see what they have and we're inspired, then we'll write a proposal, tell them what we think we can accomplish, and then we'll write an agreement, and then they'll sign it, and we off to the races. There we
Well,
go.
what do you need from an author? Do you need a synopsis of the book, or do you need the book itself, or what do you like to receive
Well,
from an author?
we're both big readers, so
Okay.
for us,
Yeah,
we
we're
love to get a
always
book,
reading.
and I appreciate that a lot of people have ebooks, and there's something for me that I really like to
Touch the pages.
to touch the physical book.
Yeah.
You know, and
Write
and
notes.
and if it's an ebook and we're feeling inspired about it, we'll print it all out. And again, I still like to touch the pages and
Yeah, me too.
and
That's good because I brought my book.
oh, great,
Awesome.
great. I was hoping that you did.
Yes.
And I'm sure you were.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. No, your book sounds very cool.
Oh,
Very
thank
cool.
you.
And,
So,
and
yeah,
there's
go ahead.
also a process that we use, and it may sound corny, but I mean, we wouldn't be in integrity if we didn't use the process of ask, believe, receive. And that's really the place to start from. If you don't believe it yourself, it's never going to get out there. You must believe it yourself
Right.
first.
So you did The Secret really, I mean, I know you were probably living by these principles, like you say before. I mean, you knew what The Secret was about. But did it boost you, did your success with it boost you to another level, or did it change the way you do business in any way or approach that? Or?
It absolutely did. I think it. Oh gosh, in so many ways. One thing is that it completely raised my faith. I mean, because this was such an honor to work with, property. We worked with The Secret. We were formally on board from September 2006 to August 2007 through the biggest.
The initial launch of it,
Yeah, like
right?
kind of I used to say that we were secret tsunami trained.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
because
not a
it
good thing to
was
say anymore.
well, but it was like that. It
Yeah, it
was
was.
it
It
was
really took off. That
yeah, it was a huge wave, and we were very blessed to be part of that. And it for me, it brought up a whole new level of faith, and it also taught me to remember the purity of the vision. There were literally hundreds and hundreds of people who came to us and said, "We want you to do what you did for The Secret for us.
yeah.
We want you to take us to Oprah." And there were a lot of people that we said no thank you to, and we would always do our best to make a referral or recommendation. And I found that there's so very few people who are willing to just stand with their vision and their story. And I think it's so simple, but that's the key.
Yeah, and we ended up, and still do, if we don't really believe that the person is walking their talk and they're the authentic, genuine article, we will not work with them. And, we've ended up turning down a lot more work than we've accepted because we must believe in it.
Of course. So you've had to
Completely.
learn to say no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is
And I have a quick little story about that. It's the wildest publicist story maybe ever, but the Today Show wanted Rhonda Byrne, and the executive producer said, "I don't care what time you call me tonight, I need to know." And the segment that they wanted to do was not a fit. And I called the producer. It's 6:30 here in Los Angeles. It's 9:30 in New York. I can tell she's in her kitchen, probably like getting her kids fed and off to bed. And I'm not going to mention her name, but I said, I'm calling because you asked me to, and I want to thank you, and I need to decline the opportunity because it's not a fit.
Wow.
And this woman basically listened to me like I was an insane person. And so I think one of the greatest things was I learned how to graciously decline.
Wow.
And I think that's something that authors, that are listening need to look at as well, because the last thing you want to do is ever sell out your story, sell out your vision. You need to make sure that it's in a place that's going to honor the intent.
Yeah, and then James Ray went on and took that interview instead. And you know what happened around
Yes, I
that.
was quoted in his book. He quoted an interview I did with Larry King, and then I was not so happy to have been in that book after.
Yeah. So you really want to watch.
Yeah.
What anything that a person does that another person can see that is visible to the world is marketing, is publicity.
Yeah.
So you really want to make sure that who you are is somebody who's heart-centered, compassionate, empathetic, and create your baseline from that place. Yeah. Because the difference between Martha Stewart and the difference between Oprah is a heart-based,
comes from her heart,
compassionate woman.
Yeah.
So that's her baseline.
Yeah.
And then where Martha Stewart, it was more about the money. So when each of them had their legal issues, everyone sided with Oprah and not so much with Martha Stewart. And
That's
you know,
true, yeah.
I like them both very much, but it's just a good example of what your baseline should be.
Yes, that's very true. And that is an amazing story, because if you get to the point where you can turn down the Today Show because you know it doesn't feel right, that's a very good place to be, I think, ultimately. So thank you for sharing that. How can people get in touch with you?
You can go to our website, which is www.e, like Edward, -pr.com. So that's www.e-pr.com. Or you can call us anywhere in the U.S. toll-free 800-858-2712. Again, the toll-free number for us is 800-858-2712.
And in the website address, that's a hyphen, not an underscore.
Yes, hyphen, right.
Yes.
Yeah, e-pr.com.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much for coming and being here. And John Stellar and Kate Romero-Stellar, thank you so much.
Our
Thank you.
pleasure.
And we're leaving with a copy of your book,
Yes,
right?
you are. Oh, of
okay,
course. I won't
good.
let you leave. Can't.
All
right.
Studio door's locked.
Oh, boy. You were stalking us, but it's good.
Yeah, I never do that. Okay, folks, stay tuned, because we have got Gagik Malikian with us in studio. He's going to join us after a brief intermission here. And if you are taking vitamins or food supplements, or if you are using sunscreen or doing any of those things that some of us aware people do, you are going to want to stay tuned, because Dr. Malikian says that maybe you should check out the products that you're using a bit more carefully. So we want to see what he has to say. This is the Book Beat here on LA Talk Live, where we are more than just talk.
Hey, shout us out. What's the count? I'm your host, Ferran Dozier. I'm inviting you to join me on WDC Radio every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as we discuss community topics around health, sports, and entertainment. So don't forget to shout us out. What's the count? On WDC Radio, only on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. What's the count?
This is Brett Chapin.
And this is Dorothy Dillingham Blue, inviting you to join us every Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time for our show, La La Land Talk.
Join us as we talk with some of the top talent in LA. Artists' untold stories, your phone calls, and live on-location broadcasts have made La La Land one of the best sources in LA for everything entertainment.
So don't forget to tune in to La La Land Talk.
Exclusively on LATalkLive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at LATalkLive.com.
Saturdays at noon Pacific Time. Find us on Facebook at Facebook.com/LaLaLandTalk. Twitter, Twitter.com/LaLaLandTalk. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live.
And we are more than just talk. I think we've got a Shakespeare monologue or two we could do. Yeah?
Jazz hands.
Kickball change.
Good
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying. Mm-hmm.
I'll do some Pippin.
Ooh, yeah. Some miming. I'm in a box.
Hello, I'm Joel Ramirez
And I'm Lolita Robinson Coppage, and welcome to Joy in My House
on LATalkLive.com. Inspirational radio
with a touch of recovery.
a reality show where nothing is left unsaid,
And no one is insignificant who says it.
exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV.
reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, and welcome back to the Book Beat. And we are here with Dr. Gagik Malikian. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Oh, great. And he is a scientist, a public advocate, and a professor of chemistry at Cal State University Northridge. And he is really passionate about protecting the American public from harmful chemicals and environmental pollutants. And he's the author of the award-winning book, Guilty, hold it up, it's fine. Guilty Until Proven Innocent, Antioxidants, Foods, Supplements, and Cosmetics, in which he provides compelling evidence that antioxidants, foods, supplements, cosmetics, and natural compounds can be harmful. I know you didn't expect that, can be harmful to the human body. So, now wait a minute, green tea, really?
And resveratrol from red wine.
And oh wow, resveratrol, wow.
From red wine. Yes.
Now, but I thought resveratrol was having amazing results with, and green tea. What is dangerous about green tea?
Green tea is advertised as an antioxidant.
Right.
Right. And the book explains for the general public, for a layperson, why these antioxidants, which are in green tea, if they give a positive result in the test, doesn't mean that they do anything good inside the body. Because all these advertisements are based on epidemiological studies, and even epidemiological studies.
What define epidemiological?
Epidemiological, when a large number of people, it can be thousands of people, are asked if they are using certain amount of green tea or you are using certain amount of red wine, and after that there are a certain number of factors which can factor in, and decisions are made, or certain results are coming from those analyses. This is not an experimental work in the laboratory. This is mostly asking people questions and after that analyzing the data. Even those data about green tea and red wine, and you know, resveratrol these days is one of the
that's a hot news supplement.
Yes, almost household name in the United States. It's absolutely inconclusive. Absolutely. On top of it, catechins, and this is the term for the compounds which are active in green tea, right? They are advertised as antioxidant, but at the same time, it's known that under physiological conditions, they generate hydrogen peroxide. Hydrogen peroxide is one of the strongest oxidizing agents in organic chemistry. We don't see this in those advertisements. Example with resveratrol, and one of the latest cases when the general public is given the information, which is not the whole truth, and in order to make a balanced decision and informed decision, of course they need the whole information. I decided to write this book, and this is the first book I wrote for the general public, because I could see from the TV screens, through the radio channels, that they are not getting this information that they need.
Well, and here's the thing, because as you know, we don't have time to, right? Because we can't research it. So, of course, I'm going to be devil's advocate. I'm going to play devil's advocate, okay? So, of course, I know you're not a real popular guy with a lot of people. And a lot of people are going to say, well, it's the drug companies that are secretly funding you. And so that's why you're out there, you know, with this anti-supplement. Is that true, or is that?
It is absolutely not true. No? And I have all this. I heard this. Now, what is the situation? I am on the mission as a scientist. I am not getting a single penny from any drug company or supplement company. Absolutely not. Now, we need to bring this knowledge to the general public. You are absolutely right that a layperson is not able to analyze this information because given the volume of information, which is absolutely incredible on a daily basis, of course it's not possible. This is the thing. But this is important that we tell them what exactly is known. I will give you an example for resveratrol. In 1940s, last century, there was a compound which was developed. It's called diethylstilbestrol. Abbreviation is DES. It has been developed to treat certain complications which are related to pregnancy, miscarriages. 20, 30 years fast forward, it caused vaginal and cervical cancer in thousands of women and was taken out of the circulation, was banned in European countries, also in the United States. Now, resveratrol from red wine is a direct structural analog of diethylstilbestrol.
Now, what is direct structural analog? Does that mean it has similar molecular structure?
Length is analogous. I have analyzed in my book the width of this, the functional disposition, topology, volume, everything is analogous.
So similar molecular structure?
Similar molecular structure, okay. Absolutely. On top of it, there is a certain type of oxidation which unfortunately happens inside our bodies. This is the reason why female hormone now is known to be carcinogen, something which is completely unheard of. Who could imagine that this kind of biogenic compound coming from the human body, female hormone, male hormones?
You mean natural?
Yes.
Naturally occurring hormones?
Naturally occurring, and not only is naturally occurring, on top of it is coming from the human body. It's not naturally occurring coming from the plant kingdom.
So you mean the hormones we manufacture?
Yes,
in our
hormone
bodies.
that we manufacture, and even they are known to be carcinogenic. And the reason, again, that specific type of oxidation. For resveratrol, it's known that this compound undergoes that specific type of oxidation, converts potentially into the carcinogenic orthoquinones. And when I see doctors, scientists, a whole establishment advertising this compound, promising people that they will live to 115 years, wherever this number is coming from, calling it America's #1 miracle pill. This, at some point, I said, I'm just fed up with this. I have to write this book. This is the reason. I just made it as simple as possible. Still, it's written for the professionals because also it's a large number of references so that they can see where this information is coming from.
Resveratrol pushed you over the edge.
Absolutely. Without resveratrol and green tea and the natural supplements.
Couldn't take it another day.
Natural supplements. It's definitely triggered that. But I have to say that I have 40 years of professional experience working at the interface of several disciplines. Organic, medicinal, enzymatic, hormonal, computational. And this is the first time I wrote this for the general public. It was quite difficult, actually, to go from the purely scientific mode of writing into the different mode.
And you really have to dumb it down
as much as
mainstream.
possible.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
You do, because people are tired, and that doesn't mean you can't have, the information, but because I've had academic, clients that I've worked with, and it's hard. I know it's tough to do that.
Absolutely.
But, and so here's a great example I got in my email this morning about fish oil.
Okay.
And prostate cancer, right? And fish oil, of course, a lot of people are taking it, and it's had great results for heart patients and all of that. But then somebody did a study, and they found that, are you familiar with that more men developed prostate cancer who were taking fish oil, right? So I read through the summary of this, and I barely had time to do that, and this was in very mainstream language. And the bottom line on this summary was, well, you have to weigh your chances, your options. If you're a man, like let's say that they said 30,000 die of prostate cancer each year, but 600,000 die of heart disease. So maybe I'd be better off taking the fish oil, right? It's like a gamble. What would your answer be to that?
Let's talk about vitamins, and let's also talk about natural supplements because they are different by their design. So vitamins, the good thing about vitamins is these are individual compounds. Natural supplements are a mixture of compounds. In many cases, we don't know what the structures are, how many components are present.
What's an example of a natural compound?
Whatever can be extracted from any plant. Any plant can be extracted, and this is sold on the market as different type of, it can be...
Like chlorophyll, for example?
All right. No, it is different. The chlorophyll is a specific compound, but extracts which are coming from the plants, they have a certain number of compounds in it. Let's say this compound has been tested as anti-inflammatory. So they will be sold as natural anti-inflammatory means.
Turmeric is supposed to be anti-inflammatory.
Absolutely. Many of them. Some of them can be cough reliever, can be fear reliever. Some of them can have an androgenic activity. So if people don't have enough testosterone, men don't have testosterone, so the supplement can be advertised as means to actually increase the concentration of testosterone inside the body. So this is an issue with supplements. So my main concern with vitamins is the following. It is true that vitamin E, for example, is known to be antioxidant. By its very structure, it's a cleverly designed molecule. It can act as an antioxidant. This means that it can scavenge and trap that bad oxygen-centered radicals.
Now, is this the natural or the synthetic vitamin?
It is natural.
Okay.
It's the same. By the way, there is no difference between natural and synthetic if this is the same molecule. Right. But there are some issues with isomers. I cannot become too technical about this. But the problem is that even with vitamin E, which seems to be absolutely benign, natural, and we know that it is good for the body, the tests, you are absolutely right, have shown that if we overdo it, if men are taking more than 400 international units over an extended period of time, there was a spike in the incidence of prostate cancer. This was mind-boggling, unheard of, unprecedented, groundbreaking. Why? Because the word vitamin and E2 definitely do not even imply anything hurtful to the human body. What does it mean? We have to be careful. We know that male hormone can be carcinogenic. Female hormones can be carcinogenic. This is why we gave up with that hormone replacement therapy issue, right? And also with vitamins. They are compounds. They have compounds. If we overload the body, there is a very delicate balance inside the body. We should be very careful with that.
So we're taking the risk of upsetting that very delicate balance.
Absolutely.
With practically any supplement that we take?
Practically with any vitamins. I want to talk about supplements separately.
Okay.
So with vitamins, we should do what? We should establish if there is a need. There should be an established need. And these days, it's very easy to analyze. For example, vitamin D. It can be done a simple blood work in a day or two. You can find out if you are vitamin D deficient or not. Then it is justified to take vitamin D for a while.
But what if those levels fluctuate? In other words, what if I go in for this test that's going to tell me what I need, and I've been really stressed out the past week, and so my levels of, say, vitamin B are down? I mean, how do we do these tests over time to get a mean, or how do you,
There are some fluctuations, in particular in concentration of man hormones and female hormones. It is true. For vitamin D, is much less fluctuations are known. So if there are certain compounds which are known to fluctuate, then it can be done, let's say, several times over a month, and the number can be averaged. It's not just they can change cell by cell orders of magnitude. We can get a pretty good idea what is the mean value for the particular human body.
Now, some people say, I'm sure you've heard this argument, the soil is depleted, right? The zinc is practically gone from the soil, therefore we have to take zinc supplements. Now, are you saying, again, have the test and a zinc deficiency will show up if it's there? Because there is this belief that because of agricultural practices that we have depleted the soil. And sometimes, to me, the food doesn't taste as good unless it's organic sometimes. I mean, it does seem like it comes from depleted soil.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is true. But the thing is that the analytical methods have been developed over the last 1-2 decades to the extent which is completely unprecedented. I can give you an example. If you take a bodily fluid, it can be saliva, it can be blood, it can be urine. Under certain conditions, we will analyze, and in one pass, in certain machines, I don't want to become technical, in certain machines, we can get a concentration or the content of tens of metals, including heavy metals, inside the body. Tens of vitamins. So analytical methods now are very developed, and we are arriving at the point when it can be a part of our everyday life, when we just swing by, ask our family practitioner, why don't you do the full panel of my heavy metals. I want to see to what extent my body is contaminated and what are the detox mechanisms which will allow me actually to free up my body from that contamination.
So what are some of the detox mechanisms? Are there things people should be doing to detox?
Unfortunately, in 2013, as of this afternoon, detox mechanisms are very deficient. Very deficient. I will give you an example. Lead. Unfortunately, we have lead in kids' toys. We have lead in many other products that we are dealing with. It can be a charger we are using. It can be any subject in the household. Lead is present even in the lipstick. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
that
cosmetics,
on the US market you can buy a lead, and not just in some kind of a cheap store for 99
Some of the
cents.
best. Yeah, I read that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It has been in the news.
Yeah.
I don't want to name certain companies,
No, I
but the
remember.
best companies.
Yeah, some of the
they
top
are known.
companies, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So lead. One thing is, how come that we allow these things to happen? And I have to say, I don't think you know about this. I have been collaborating with certain consumer protection groups for over many, many years, trying to protect the American public against this kind of business practices so that we can implement better control over the quality of material which is sold in the U.S. markets and on the American soil.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not there. Going back to the detox situation is we should invest much more money so that we will know how to detox the bodies. Lead, for example, cannot be completely removed from the human body. Lead, unfortunately, accumulates inside the bones, can stay for many, many years, and as soon as we clean up certain amount of lead in the bloodstream, it desorbs from the bone back into the bloodstream.
I see. So
These
it's
are
complex,
serious,
yeah.
absolutely serious
You know,
scientific issues.
And our time is actually going really fast here. We'll have to have you back on because there's so many things to discuss.
Absolutely.
How can people, I know you have the Alliance of Concerned Citizens that
Right.
you founded. What's the best way for people to contact you and get involved?
First of all, I would like to get the word out.
Mm-hmm.
I have done a number of radio interviews, and thank you very much for your invitation. I really appreciate that. And I'm doing also all over the Los Angeles public presentations.
Okay.
And for lay audience and also for professional
Do you have a
audiences.
website where people can see?
The website is at the university website, which
Okay.
is the www.csun, stands for California State University Northridge, .edu /G Melikyan, GMELIKYAN.
Okay, and hold the book up.
that you
Yeah.
are referring to
Yes.
is also available on Amazon.
Here, hold it up.
Yes, yeah. Is this
Okay.
the right position?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So it's available on Amazon, and just simply, if you type in Google antioxidant guilty, there are 270,000 references, and the first reference is reference for this book because antioxidant and guilty combination is so rare.
Very good. You ought to be teaching SEO. I gotta get it. Well, so thank you so much, and we're going to go to break now and bring on our third guest. And this was Dr. Gagik Malikian. Thank you again, and
Thank you.
Stay tuned. In just a couple of minutes, we are going to be talking to Lee Gale Gruen, and she has a fascinating story to tell about taking acting classes with her father. So stay tuned. This is the Book Beat at LA Talk Live.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, I'm Jerry Bell of the Daz Band in New Birth.
And I'm Brahima Arsalan.
Inviting you to join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time for Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics, baby.
Join us as we play some of the greatest hits of soul and R&B and listen in to interesting discussions with the legends of the music.
So don't you forget, join us on the Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics. You'll love it. Exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio.
Or watch us and listen directly at latalklive.com, baby.
Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure.
This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk, baby. We're music.
By the way, my first name is
Lee Gale. Hi, and welcome back to the Book Beat. And we're here with Lee Gale. Did I say that right?
Yes, it's Lee Gale Gruen.
Gruen, okay.
Yes.
And Lee Gale has written an amazing book. It's called Adventures with Dad, a father and daughter's journey through a senior acting class. And after retiring at age 60 from a 37-year career as a probation officer with the LAPD?
No, Los Angeles County Probation Department.
Okay,
Yes.
County Sheriff's?
Los Angeles County Probation Department.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm seeking. You can see how much I know about the government structure here. You enrolled in an acting class for seniors just for fun, right?
That's
And then a few weeks later, your mother died, and you invited your father, who was 85 years old at the time, was that right? And he was grieving, to come to class with you, and something happened that you didn't expect, right? What happened when your father, when you brought him into this with you?
My father adored the class. It totally energized him. And when we left that first session, he wanted to know what time I was picking him up next week for our class.
Wow. He was committed, huh?
Yeah, he loved it.
Wow.
He loved it. But he had a very outgoing personality, very charismatic type of person.
What had he done in his life? What career?
He was a mid-level manager for a large aircraft corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And always was the life of the party, the guy telling the jokes. And the acting class just fed right into that, that bottomless pit, that need for constant attention.
He had an outgoing personality.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Very much.
And so why did you decide to enroll?
Oh, I had never had any aspiration of being an actress, and I had just met somebody, was telling them that I didn't know what I was going to do with myself once I retired. And she invited me to a children's theater group that she was involved with, and everyone seemed to be having a good time. I wasn't interested in being involved with the children's theater group, but a friend told me about this this school for seniors in Santa Monica, California, and I just looked at their catalog and I saw the acting class. I didn't really know that we were expected to act, or I never would have enrolled. I had such terrible stage fright.
Really?
All my life I had terrible stage fright. I just thought we sat in our seats and kind of went around the room and talked about the play.
Sort of theoretical, more.
Yeah, and analytical, just analyzed
So
them.
did this kind of get you out of your shell that you'd been in? Or?
Totally.
Wow.
Totally. I was scared to death in the beginning. When I learned that we had to not only rehearse and memorize, but also perform scenes on a stage in front of a live audience.
Wow. It sounds scary when you're describing it.
It was pretty, I couldn't believe it. I thought, what am I doing here? But I stuck it out, scared to death, shaking in my shoes, and little by little I got more confidence in myself. I slowly lost my stage fright, and now I am a professional actress, and I love it.
So you actually have a career now,
I
right?
do, a second career.
Wow, have you
Yes.
been working, what are some of the things you've been working on? Television?
I've done
films?
some television. I have done some short films. I've done lots of commercials. I work at UCLA Medical Center periodically
In
throughout
the
the year.
That they make for...
No, the medical center hires actors to portray patients so the medical students can interview them, and it's part of their training.
I see.
So I portray perhaps 6 or 7 different characters and have been doing this for about 5 years.
Wow, wow.
Yes.
So are you finding that there are actually, I mean, there are TV roles that where you kind of fit the bill, right? I mean, it's...
I go out for auditions. It's very competitive, very
Yeah, I'll
competitive. But I've gotten my share. I've been on Comedy Central recently. I was on VH1 TV recently. I've done several different. I was on a soap opera once. I had 2 lines. One ended up on the cutting room floor. But as I say in my book, one aired.
Wow. So, because coming from being a probation officer, I mean, for such a long time, I mean, 37 years, it's not like 20 years. It's 30,
Right.
yeah, it's nearly 40 years. I mean, this is really like really reinventing yourself in a
Yes.
huge way, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
wow. So, and now about your dad, though, what was happening between you and your dad as you were taking these classes together?
Well, and I talk about this in my book. Growing up, I never really was alone with my father very often. My mother and sister were there. He was at work all week. So, we never really bonded that much. I mean,
Didn't
certainly
really
there was...
know him that well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And during the acting class, we had both discovered this passion that we were both so excited about, and we bonded more than ever before. We rehearsed constantly. Our talk on the telephone was all acting talk. I mean, we became
Wow.
kind of crazy.
So you both like kind of caught the acting bug together.
Totally caught the bug together. And I wrote all the scenes that we performed together in the acting class showcase.
Oh, you had to write the scenes too?
No, actually, we were supposed to find scenes from well-known plays, but my father was 85. There's not a lot of characters in well-known plays of that age, and the Sunshine Boys had already been done the previous semester. So I thought, well, I'm going to try to write something because I was desperate. And I had done writing in my job as a probation officer. That writing had been writing sentencing reports for judges to sentence criminal defendants. Totally different kind of writing.
Yeah, very different from screenwriting.
But I thought I'd give it a try. And all 6 scenes that I wrote have a similar underlying theme. They're all daughter and dad scenes. And dad is this irascible elderly man who is always pulling these antics, and daughter is always tearing out her hair at these antics. So I wrote 6 different scenes, and they're all in my book.
Oh, good. So he must have had a lot of fun then doing these.
He
right? Both of
adored
you.
it.
Yeah.
He adored it. That kept him vital, kept him excited about life. As a matter of fact, when I'm now giving author talk book signings around the greater Los Angeles area and further south, and I've included in my talks a portion talking about reinventing yourself, because that's what I've done. I've reinvented myself.
Definitely, yeah.
In my senior years, and I'm trying to inspire other seniors to find something to be passionate about, so that they are motivated to embrace life, actually.
Well, give us some tips about that, because, I mean, after 37 years at one job, I would imagine that you sort of really get into a routine.
Mm-hmm.
And so did you feel, I can see why you might have felt lost about what am I going to do, right?
Oh, yes.
Because And a lot of people are in that position. They sort of now have some freedom and they don't know what to do, right, with their life. Or
I think it's often when people retire, when they reach their senior years, baby boomers now, you call it freedom. I think it's pretty frightening to them. I'm not so sure that they want the freedom. They don't know what to do with themselves. Many of them become depressed. Their careers are over. The children are out of the house. And I've met a lot of baby boomers and seniors who are at that place. And I want to send a message to them. There is so much to do out there. You don't have to take the path that I took. There are so many things that you can do, that you can become passionate about, so that you're excited about waking up in the morning, about getting dressed, about getting out into the world. And I do want to say one other thing. I know how frightening it is to walk into a situation where everybody else seems to know each other. If you go to a class or a meeting and everyone else seems to know each other and you're the only one there, you're like a stranger, and it's very, very frightening. A lot of people want to turn around and leave. And my message is, everyone was at that place once, so do it anyway. That's the message. Do it anyway. We were all there once, shaking in our shoes.
Now, that's great advice. Now, just I'm going to be, let me counter that. And some people probably say, well, when I was young, though, it was easier. And now there's age discrimination, right? Sometimes you feel like a little out of place, or you feel like if there's younger people there, maybe, you feel a little embarrassed. Or how do they deal with that kind of thing?
That is difficult.
Yeah.
And I know that when I've been in a situation with mostly younger people, I kind of feel invisible. They're talking about things that I don't know about, I'm not interested in. They're not interested in what I have to say. So what I do is seek out situations where there are lots of people my age also. I also seek out volunteer types of situations, something where there's a common activity, or even a part-time employment kind of situation, so that everybody is working on a common goal. And that takes that away quite a bit then.
So
that problem.
If you're coming out of this kind of funk of being retired and stuff, sort of maybe look for some easier situations to start with, where you're going to feel at least comfortable with your age group or something like that.
Right. Or find something that excites you. And can I give a couple of examples?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I have a friend who adores gardening, and she's gotten involved in a couple of gardening clubs. So she's forever, driving around taking cuttings from this location to that location. And that's her passion. I volunteer. I am a volunteer tour guide at the La Brea Tar Pits. And so I've learned all about it, and I love interacting with the tourists that come. So we're all talking together about the La Brea Tar Pits. So we're not dealing with age or things like that.
You're dealing with dinosaurs.
They're not exactly dinosaurs. They appeared later than dinosaurs, but we won't get into that.
I better take the tour.
Yes, come on my tour.
Is there any example you have of somebody that you saw kind of make a transition, who was kind of depressed and then they found something? Have you seen that happen?
Yes, I have a friend who had some illness in her family with some family members, and much of her life was just wrapped around the illness and doctors and all of this. And actually, I was the one who suggested a particular volunteer activity for her. I'd heard about it, and it was not far from where she lived, and she got involved in it. It's one of the highlights of her week.
Really changed her,
yeah,
transformed her.
Yeah.
Now, we just have a couple minutes left here, but I did want to talk about you say here how to get closure with our parents before they die, before they pass away. And
right.
Was this something that you felt happened with your father because of this experience you'd had with the class together?
That's something that I do talk about in my book. My book is, can I tell the
Oh, of course. We're
title
going
of
to
the book?
definitely encourage people to get your book.
Oh, okay. My
Don't
book
worry about
is a
that.
memoir. It's called Adventures with Dad, A Father and Daughter's Journey Through a Senior Acting Class. And it starts when I retired and my father and I started attending the senior acting class. And
Available on Amazon, right?
Oh, you can buy it on Amazon.com, all the major online
Barnes and Noble,
websites.
yeah.
If you are not computer literate, walk into any bookstore and ask them to order it.
Right.
You can also get it through my website. Go to my publisher. Can I tell my website?
Oh, yes. We want to know that, yeah.
The
definitely.
website is adventureswithDadTheBook.com. And on my website, there will be a link to my publisher, and you can get it from him also.
Very good. So, and I know you do address this issue at length in your book, but for you, did you feel that you had sort of established, was it easier to let him go when he died because you had gotten closer to him? Or
Oh my. I think it was harder.
was it harder?
Yeah, I think it was harder. We had gotten so close. We had bonded even when he was in the nursing home, and I go through all of that in the book. Even when he was in the nursing home and I was starting to actually go out on auditions, real auditions, and actually get booked and get paid. I mean, things like that. I'd run back to the nursing home each time and sit at his bedside, and we'd talk all about my experiences in the real world of acting, the crazy real world of acting. And he was living vicariously through
Must
me.
have really enjoyed that.
He
yeah.
loved it. He loved it. He took my headshot, my professional acting headshot, and pinned it right up on the wall, or had me pin it up on the wall, so that as soon as he opened his eyes in the morning, he could see it. He was bedridden by that time. He was in a nursing home. And he was lucid up to the very end and loved to talk about acting. And actually, one of the staff members there was also a budding actor, and he'd come into the room, and the three of us would talk about it.
That's such an amazing story because, you know, I get the feeling he kind of missed his calling in some ways, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he would have been great at that.
Yeah.
And, you know, he loved the class so much because he was the oldest member of the class, and the class members just doted upon him. They were so taken with a father and daughter acting team, both being seniors. Mm-hmm. And the audiences, too, at our showcases just loved it. I mean, people that we didn't even know, not only our friends, but people we didn't know would surround us at the end, trying to get a piece of my father, trying to get near him.
So he felt like a celebrity.
He did.
Yeah.
He loved it. Mm-hmm. I talk a lot about my father's insecurity, which I realized only as an adult. He was a difficult man to live with growing up, and he'd always craved attention, and probably had to do with some of the deprivation he had as a child. So he was getting all that attention he'd always wanted through the acting class, and he just couldn't get enough.
Yeah, it's funny how we realize that about our parents, especially if they were controlling or kind of overbearing, yes. That sometimes they felt insecure inside, you know.
Yes.
We don't realize that till many decades later. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll definitely hope that people will get your book. It does seem like a fascinating read, and it's a wonderful story.
I will be giving a book talk, an author signing book talk at the Santa Monica Library tomorrow night, August 14th at 7 o'clock. So anybody who wants to come out, please do.
Yeah, Santa Monica Library tomorrow night at 7, right? Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And so we're going to sign off for now. Join us next week, same time, same station, for the Book Beat. And of course, on this show, you know you have homework, which is to find a good book. If you can't find one, maybe you're going to do what our guest here did and write one yourself. So see you next week on the Book Beat. And remember, all the shows are archived here at latalklive.com, where we are more than just talk.
Thank you for tuning in to LA Talk Live, reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we're more than just talk. Stay tuned.